And where's Godzilla?
18 field max power!
What are you, stupid?
It's time to show the world what you can do.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dyname, the daikaiju anime podcast, where I've got my 7 onion rings in hand. So let's get ready to live and learn and see what this movie's made of. Let's get unleashed. Let's talk about this movie, our favorite Sonic heroes, and the Sonic boom it caused at the box office. But it's not just all of me. Today I am joined by Metal, not Metal Sonic though. It's my friend Metal Yoshi, and today we're going to show everyone together the superpower of teamwork.
Oh, hello everyone. Just a work in progress name, but I think I'm gonna stick with Metal. For short.
Works with us. We love the Mecha Godzilla on this podcast. You know, the Metal, Mecha Sonic, all that stuff. Today, my friend Metal is joining us, and he's a lot more of a gamer than I am. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, kind of like your history with the Sonic franchise, just a little background for everybody, because this is the first time we have Metal on the Dyname podcast with us.
Yeah, it's my first podcast too, and to introduce myself, well, from my perspective, it's more from like a gamer, so that's my specialty. I collect games, so I just like keeping up with the history of them and stuff, but I enjoy them. I don't collect them to just look at them. I actually do play my games on original hardware, all that stuff. I emulate when it makes sense. But my history with Sonic specifically, I grew up with a GameCube, and I played Sonic Adventure 1, DX, and Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. I did get to see the Dreamcast when I was a kid, but when it was on its way out, but I did see some of the kiosks, and they were playing like Sonic Adventure 2 on the kiosk, like the one battle with the ship, the first boss from like I think the first level.
The Bigfoot boss?
Yes, the one with the missiles that you gotta wait for his hitbox. That guy, and that was when the demo. You played a City Escape level, then you fought him, and then that's it for the demo. And I forgot what game store. I don't think GameStop was around at that time. It was like probably an electronics store. I know Toys R Us had some, but Rested Soul. But yeah. That's my history with Sonic, and then ever since then I've been on and off the series. So I skipped the generation, the PS3 and Xbox 360 generation of Sonic, because at that time I was too poor, too broke. I was at a stage in my life where I was going to high school, but I didn't have any money, and my parents didn't want to buy me any games. And the games I could get my hands on, it was like DS games that I would find in the garage, or GBA games. So I got by with like Sonic Rush, the first one, and I didn't play Adventure until Sonic Rush Adventure till recently, because I gotta say the Rush, because there's a lot of adventure in Sonic, in the Sonic game.
For me, it was really similar, because we never got a PlayStation 3 or 360. We had a Wii and a DS, so I had like Sonic Colors on the DS, but in the same way, like a lot of Wii games, that was like the Christmas presents. And I got some other, like I remember I got Kirby one year and stuff. But yeah, Sonic for me, in the same way, like I had some Genesis stuff, and later in life I got into the Dreamcast and everything, but it was for me just those classic games, and then a lot of the mobile games, especially Colors DS, and then shortly after that I got a GameCube, got Shadow the Hedgehog, and that was definitely a life-changing game.
Oh, that's awesome. Then you go more into like Sega's past with your experience.
Yeah, I do like the classic games and stuff, but we should probably move on from the games to the movie now, if that's all right.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get to the main event.
Before we talk about the film itself, just in case you haven't seen it, we're not going to do spoilers until a little bit later in the podcast. Right now, I thought it'd be cool to talk about the box office updates for Sonic 3. If you've been keeping up with this movie, you would know that it has basically been Sonic versus Mufasa. Who was going to win? Who's going to come out on top? This sequel to a billion-dollar movie from Disney, or the third Sonic film. And well, as of last night, I checked all of the totals, and it looks like Mufasa has 222 million about in the American or domestic box office, and Sonic 3 has 227 plus $1 million. So Sonic 3 actually right now is beating and may actually beat Mufasa at the domestic box office. I didn't think that this was like actually possible, and I'm like stunned. We'll get to the worldwide numbers in just a second, but how do you feel about Sonic 3 actually beating a Disney film, and not just a Disney film, it's a sequel to a huge movie? For context, the 2019 Lion King made over 500 million just in the domestic box office.
Absolutely incredible. I didn't think it was possible. I remember you and me were chatting about this, like, oh no, there's no way. Like, as much as we hate to see it, Sonic's not gonna do it. But like, lo and behold, Sonic is here. He went supersonic, and he's literally showing people what he's made of, like that one song.
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing, to be honest. I'm not just hating Mufasa just to hate, but it really is just one of those movies that you look at it and you're like, why? And you just want to see like a smaller or a different franchise just come in and just show them what they have to do to succeed. They can't just coast by being lazy. And that's why I wanted this movie so badly to succeed. And on top of that, it's a good movie, not just that. But I'm glad that this is what Sonic has done, so that's incredible.
And unfortunately, it looks like Disney did not live and learn from this. They are making another live-action Mufasa sequel thing. When we look at the worldwide box office numbers, Sonic 3 is holding 447 million about. It could probably get up to 450 million. And Mufasa has 629 plus $1 million at the worldwide. So it looks like Sonic it's not doing bad internationally, it's just not doing great. And I think you and me both already know, like, Japan, for example, isn't the biggest fan. Like, the Sonic isn't as big there as it is here, which is kind of weird. But would you say it makes sense that Sonic did better domestically than worldwide, or are you a little shocked by it not performing as well across the seas?
I think it makes sense, like specifically for Japan. I think it makes sense too because Sonic's like original design was meant to be very American. I think in an interview with Yuji Naka, or one of the producers for like Sonic himself, like the designer, he said that they made him specifically to appeal to the West. So that makes sense. That checks out. And also other things that you can kind of correlate to that is that he loves chili dog, so that's very American. His colors too, if you notice, red, blue, white, the American flag colors. Sonic is just American. He was made for the American audience, in the same way that Samus was as well. So, it makes sense to me. And I guess in other territories of the world, I can't speak of too much because I'm not too sure. But I have family in Mexico. I don't see a lot of Sonic stuff as much as I do in America. So that also might check out. And also Mario is just Mario. So I guess when people think of video game movies, they probably just think of Mario.
Yep.
That could be a reason why. And then maybe as for other countries, just the availability of games. Like, I'm not too sure about the Genesis history in Mexico. I know it's predominantly Super Nintendo over there because I would visit my father when I was younger in Mexico, and he had a Super Nintendo. Never heard of the Genesis until like way later. But yeah, it's just mostly a Nintendo territory, so that could be just the availability. And when you hear about the history of Sega, it's usually the battle between Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, and the Genesis too in America, specifically with the commercials and stuff like the Nintendo and stuff. So
for sure, and
makes sense.
I've been getting into Sonic 3D Blast recently. I just found out the Genesis version only released in America, or at least it didn't release in Japan. They only got the Saturn port later. And if that was your only Sonic game if that if you only knew that as a Sega Saturn game, I can definitely see how that would have tarnished the reputation further even. It's a good Genesis game, but Saturn, it's definitely underwhelming. But speaking of the Mario movie, that movie did make over $1 billion. That movie did amazing. However, Sonic 3 is the second highest grossing video game movie now. So it's behind Mario. It's probably not going to catch it, but maybe Sonic 4 will be able to. We'll see. But for now, if you were to give a short, spoiler-free, just no details about the movie, just kind of thoughts about it. If someone asked you, I'm thinking about seeing it, give me a couple sentence, 1 or 2 sentence review. What would you give for them?
So I guess just to dance around spoilers here, I would say it's a great movie. Honestly, there is a lot of action. I would call it like a semi-action movie with some comedy added to it, and also very family friendly. It does have some stuff in there for the kids, but it's also for all ages, I feel, because there's some stuff in there that you're like, oh, this is amazing even as an adult. Like, I'm 29, I'm almost 30, so I thought it was good. So, yeah, there's some stuff that if you do have a kid, especially that likes Sonic or he hasn't heard of him and you're like a fan of the old adventure games, you want him to kind of know him, this is an excellent movie to go watch with them.
I agree. I'd say if you liked the first 2 movies, you're going to love this one. And even if you didn't love Sonic 1 or 2, still go see this one. I saw this with one of my friends actually, and we watched all 3 of them. He thought the first one was pretty bad, thought the second one was cool because of Knuckles, but it was pretty cringe, and he thought the third movie was a perfect 10 out of 10 movie. Like, no notes, that was one of the best movies he's ever seen. And watching those 3 movies back to back, I can kind of see where he's coming from. The first Sonic movie is definitely a very safe, by-the-numbers movie, and it's good. It's not bad, but it is very just cookie-cutter. The second movie, I think, has some really good moments, like Knuckles, Sonic and Tails, and Eggman going down the mountain. But it also has moments like the Sonic dance scene or the whole wedding part, which I feel like kind of detracted. Sonic 3 doesn't detract. It's a Sonic adventure movie, basically. We follow Sonic on his adventure, and we're cutting away to Shadow or Eggman. It's never cutting away to stuff we don't care about. So I think before we get into the spoiler talk, we do have some listeners who might be wondering, why are you covering Sonic 3 on the Daikaiju and Anime podcast? Well, the biggest reason is I wanted to, and it's a great movie. Number 2, Sonic did have an anime in the early 2000s, Sonic X, and when I get into some spoilers, they actually reference that anime a lot in these movies. But the biggest thing is there are Godzilla references in this movie. Very explicit, not like hidden. It's just very in your face. The 3 references I caught are when Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles go to Tokyo. He exclaims, "I don't know if it's Godzilla or Hello Kitty, but together, we'll be able to take care of it." That was fun. And then when Shadow and Maria, spoiler time, everyone. Just heads up, we're getting into this is very light spoilers, but after this, we're going to get into the big spoilers. When we see Shadow and Maria's backstory, they're watching a old monster movie, and the special effects in it look kind of cheesy, as you could say, and it looks like an old Godzilla movie. It's actually the Bio Lizard, and if they weren't going to have the Bio Lizard in the movie, I'm very glad that he was at least a Godzilla reference. With this being the Daikaiju podcast, how do you feel, Metal, about the Bio Lizard being reduced to essentially a Godzilla movie in this?
Honestly, I feel like Sega or whoever created the Bio Lizard design should be honored to be compared to Godzilla, or even just have the privilege to reference such an iconic character. I would if I were a creator of like a giant monster like that. And also just very cool that it made it into the movie in the first place, because with like directors and stuff not being the biggest gamers, sometimes they'll just omit very like not I don't want to say crucial, but like stuff from the game specifically. They're not like proud of the gaming lineage of the movie, so I'm glad it's in there.
Also, I like how the BioLizard cameo also like had a little, maybe not story significance, but it was significant to Shadow as a character because we see the text on screen, "Beware the alien freak," and it kind of, we can see that's like affecting Shadow. And I kind of thought to myself, like, Maria, you should have picked a different movie. You know what the movie's called. Why did you? Maybe it was on TV. Maybe they didn't pick that one. But the only other Godzilla reference that I saw in this was during the credit sequence, there are a bunch of giant Chow knocking over buildings in Tokyo. Just because they're huge in Tokyo, knocking stuff over, made me think of Godzilla. But that's all the Godzilla and kaiju stuff within Sonic 3. There is a giant crab, actually, I guess. I didn't think about, there is a giant mecha crab. You do get that, but other than that, I think we should get into our spoiler-filled thoughts. I'll go ahead and start this one. I think this movie finally took the step that the other two were scared to take, where in the first movie we hear Green Hills like once on a piano, and we all get excited because it's a games reference. Or the second movie, we finally have Knuckles, and we're all happy about that, and the Master Emerald. But now, in Sonic 3, we're taking lines from the we're taking lines from the games, we're taking music from the games, we're taking so much from the games to where this almost feels like a Sonic Adventure 3 in a weird way, or 2.5. If you know what I mean. It's almost like its own Sonic Adventure.
I agree with that. It's a 2.5 Sonic Adventure. I would say because it has a lot of ties to the Sonic Adventure 2 specifically. Like you do see Gerald in Sonic Adventure 2, the game, but not as much as you do in the movie. So that's like a big bonus. And then again, Shadow's a big part of Sonic Adventure 2 as well. Oh, and then also what's very cool is that you get to actually see more of Maria too, wherein as in the adventure, you just see that one clip of Shadow just remembering her getting shot.
Is that the only time she's in Adventure 2? I've played so much Shadow, I'm used to seeing a little more of her. Is that really it?
Yep, that's really it.
Wow.
Then the not even a flashback to what Maria actually said helps Shadow turn good at the end. Minor spoiler for Sonic Adventure 2 for those who haven't played it, but at the end, it's Amy that talks Shadow out of destroying the planet. So it's not like a memory of Maria, and I like how in this one it is Maria's more tied to it because you don't really get that much Maria until Shadow the Hedgehog.
I think from that we should just go into our thoughts on like the main characters right now. I think we both agree Maria was fantastic. They expanded the character. The actress did great. We didn't see her get shot. I know a lot of people were quote unquote excited for that. But they did, people aimed a gun at her and they were going to, and I think that was enough for a kids movie. People who wanted her to get shot, I think they need to remember these are movies for like young audiences. Us older Sonic fans definitely are seeing them through a different light, but it's a different thing for the kids, and I think that these movies are turning into something special for them, and they don't need to get super graphic and violent. Like, we saw Shadow use his gun, and it doesn't need to be a rated R affair. But did you have any other thoughts on Maria, how they updated her character for Sonic 3?
Not many like new thoughts. I mean, like you, I also think really positively. Like the actress, she did a really good job because usually, kid actors, it's always a mixed bag. But I'm glad, like she seemed very genuine in her performance and stuff. And I just really cool just seeing more of her again. Like she's not really that much in the Adventure 2 games until like Shadow the Hedgehog when you get to see her. But other than that, yeah, positive thoughts here.
I agree a lot with what you said too, with them like tying her to Shadow more, because I liked how she was rollerblading throughout the gun base, because it reminded me of him when he's using his I don't know what they're called, his light shoes.
Yeah, they're I want to say like jet boots, jet shoes. But yeah, that's a very cool detail they put in there. That like shows how close they were without even just telling you. Like they really just respect your intelligence because they didn't just outright tell her, "Oh yeah, I do this because of Shadow." They didn't have to tell you. You can just infer from that.
It's a movie we can show not tell, and Sonic 3 took great advantage of that. And a lot of that probably has to do with the fact the director of these movies, he was a CGI art, or I don't know exactly his role, but he definitely worked heavily on the CGI cutscenes for Shadow the Hedgehog. And you watch those, you can tell this guy has a knack for visual storytelling. Like, he's great at poses, expressions, all of that stuff. And we see that echoed in the movie. But before we get on to the hedgehogs and all the other animals, what did you think of Gerald and Eggman in this movie? Both played by Jim Carrey.
First of all, he also mentions that in the movie too, like another spoiler, like they're talking to each other at the first meeting, and they just like it's almost like we're played by the same actor, and he look at the audience. That's amazing. But I really like how he plays off himself off in the movie. It's kind of weird to say that, but it's amazing. Like you can see he's just having so much fun doing this. And then what's cool for also the fans of Gerald being there is again you get to see more because Eggman in the original game he doesn't even comment that he has a grandfather. It looks like he doesn't even care. In this one you can see, oh no, I have family. Like that's interesting. I honestly hope they implement that in the games because I'd love to know what he would think of like his cousin Maria and then his grandfather.
They actually just added in Sonic what's it called? The open world one.
Frontiers?
Yep. In Sonic Frontiers, you can have like these voice memo things, and Eggman comments on Maria like, I don't get why she was so special. I don't get why the whole family gave her so much attention. I think even after she passed, she's the only family member anyone wanted to talk about. So they might actually be implementing that like family trauma kind of stuff that was introduced in the first Sonic movie, with him being the orphan and all that. So that's definitely an interesting role or take for Eggman, and it actually allows them to expand his character more instead of just being a literal mustache twirling villain.
Yeah, they planted some seeds, honestly. They could do like a prequel or even tied to the games, to be honest, because I'd love to know it. Like if they ever get to like a Sonic Adventure 2 remake, I feel like maybe that's one thing they could expand on.
I thought Jim Carrey did great as both. Gerald he wasn't my favorite in the movie, but like he serves his role, if that makes sense. I do kind of prefer the game Gerald because he's a little more of a tragic character. And maybe if they gave us more of Gerald with Maria, I would have thought that, but it's not like it ruins the movie or anything. We also can't sympathize him too much because we need to bug zap that guy later. You know that scene.
Yep. I was gonna say one thing that I feel like they changed from Gerald from the games that I feel like maybe they should have brought back is they should have gotten into more as to, I guess, how he felt after Maria's death. Like now he wants revenge, but in the games it like he had a video. He was already dead by the time Sonic Adventure 2 shows up on the game. So like it sounds like he's getting a video recorded post Maria's death, and it's probably long after he's there that he made the Eclipse cannon to get fired. But I just wonder, did he go insane after that? Like, how does he go from like a researcher benefiting for the doing research for the benefit of mankind to like a evil scientist? You know, I just want to know that transition. As I feel one thing that the movie could have touched on briefly, like maybe like a brief cutscene to the past of how he descended into madness after Maria's death. Because we all know what happened to Shadow. Like, we did see Shadow's side of it. He literally just got put back into the capsule.
Yep. And for Gerald, we know in the games that Maria had that illness, and that was kind of like the whole reason for him creating Shadow and all of the research on the Ark. But in the movie, there's no Ark. and Shadow's an alien, which I'm not bothered by that at all. Just actually, before we go on to Shadow, I do want to say I love Jim Carrey's Eggman. Every time he is like on screen and he's like eating the scenery, just chewing up all the screen time in the best way, I just like can see the modern game Eggman doing what he's doing. Like I can just see it so well. And especially when he gets the outfit near the end of the movie, it's like, that's Dr. Eggman. There's not a question, there's not a doubt. That is a live action perfect Eggman.
Or he could be a reference to Sonic 06 Eggman, which he looks almost live action.
He does. I thought that too when we like got that trailer and we see him. You know, he's not as fat as a Eggman in the games. It did make me think of 06 a little bit, but moving on from the Eggster, Shadow was definitely changed a little bit in this movie. We have Keanu Reeves voicing him, and like I said, he's an alien. He comes down from a black comet. This is an interesting take on Shadow, I'll put it that way. We get a whole character arc with him. We get to know a lot about him. What do you think about movie Shadow compared to the game's Shadow?
So, honestly, it's very similar. It is slightly different. Like, I know in the games he's created, in this one he's an alien. Technically, if you also minor spoiler of Sonic X Shadow Generations. In there, it's established that he has some alien DNA, so it's not too far off because he's created by some of the, I think, cells or DNA of Black Doom. So he's technically is an alien, just not in the sense of like he comes from outer space. He just has some DNA from an actual alien in the games. So it's very similar. I don't know how I feel about this origin, to be honest, because then I guess that takes away the whole Maria disease, so it's a little change. But I feel like it works for the movie, to be honest. And I like how it's also establishing that it's its own thing, that it can stand on its own without being weighed down by the games.
It is nice to get like different takes. It does kind of remind me of like when Sonic was really popular back in the day. We had the games, and then there was kind of American and Japanese Sonic, and then we had the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which was like a really goofy cartoon, and then there was Sad AM, which was like a more serious cartoon, and they're all different, but they're all Sonic, and I like that like you said, the movies are going to stand on their own when they're all done. I think it will be a good adaptation of the Sonic lore and characters, and maybe they'll even start making more games based on these movies. I would not be surprised.
It'd be awesome. I have more faith in them now than I did a while back.
What did you think about Shadow not swearing once in the movie and using a laser gun instead of an actual gun? Because in the pre-renders, he was using like a handgun, but they did change that. Does that bother you, or are you okay with those changes to make Shadow more family friendly?
It doesn't bother me, and honestly, it's still game accurate for those people who nitpick that, because he still uses laser guns in Shadow the Hedgehog. He can pick up the Black Army weapon, so it still checks out fine. The swearing, though, I wanted him to just say damn, because it's just funny, because, you're seeing a quote-unquote kid-friendly character. He's just like, oh, damn. It wouldn't have bothered me whether it was in a movie or not. I would have been like, oh, I would have had a little smirk on my face as watching it if he said the phrase. But it's no big deal, to be honest. I feel like he was still, I guess, Shadow. Like, you don't need the swearing. It's just, that would have been a fun little reference. But other than that, his character's intact. I think this is a perfect movie adaptation of Shadow. I feel like there's very little they could have improved. I'm trying to think if they could have improved anything, to be honest. I guess the only thing I wanted to see in the movie that they didn't is his iconic phrase, Chaos Control, his iconic move. That's the only thing I would have wanted them to show. But other than that, 9 out of 10. If it had Chaos Control, 10 out of 10.
Listen, just get ready. We're going to get Sonic 4, and they're going to get in trouble, and then time will stop, and we'll hear it, and that'll be when he shows up to save the day. They could do something really cool with Shadow in the next movie, I feel like, if they don't overuse him. But Moving on from Shadow, let's get into the Sonic heroes. What did you think of Sonic, Knuckles, or Tails? I'll let you pick who we start with.
Oh, okay. So I guess let's leave Sonic for last because he's the main character. So Tails, I feel like he was he was good in the movie to be honest. He's more like a sidekick role. Like he is in the games to be honest too. That's also accurate because he would not chime in too much, but he'd be very helpful. He would. There's the scene that where I feel like Tails was the most I guess prominent where the spotlight was on him is when he was talking to Stone in the cave or the broken down gun base, and they're just having talking about his relationship with Stone and Eggman. And I guess it made him reflect on that, so it gave Stone that change to consider Eggman a friend. Because I feel like before that maybe they weren't that close, and that's when you started to see, hey, Stone started caring more about Eggman before he sacrificed himself at the Ark. But that's I feel like the biggest Tails moment in this movie. But it was a very minor role, but he's still there. Knuckles, I feel like I have some stuff to say about Knuckles. Sorry, am I going too fast? Because I know you wanna.
No, you're
Also
good. You're
chime
good.
into your Tails.
Yeah, I'll hop in with my thoughts on Tails. He's great in these movies. He definitely is like the little brother and the supporting role. He definitely has not been pushed into the spotlight. Even in Sonic Movie 2, Knuckles kind of got more of that, but I'm just happy Tails is competent. He's not all help me Sonic or Sonic I can't do this. There's times where that comes out, but he is a competent character who is an essential member of Team Sonic. Like he's actually helping. He makes the gadgets. He helps come up with the plans. Without him, Sonic and Knuckles wouldn't be able to do what they got to do essentially.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's like the Donatello from like Ninja Turtles of
Yep.
the team.
Yep.
He's really helpful. I'm not saying like when I say minor role, it's just the spotlight wasn't on him, but he was very helpful throughout the movie, especially when they were formulating the plan to go into the gun base. He was telling Sonic, "Hey Sonic, you probably won't make it," and he didn't. Spoiler again, he doesn't make it until Knuckles helps him out. So
Or doesn't
he was
Tails
right.
help him out?
Yeah, Tails helps him out, and Knuckles too. Like Knuckles, no, yeah, Tails throws him into the shield,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then Knuckles helps him out when they're trapped. Sorry, I was getting mixed up there because I thought he flew and broke in before, but yeah, it was Tails that helps him out. So Tails knew that he wouldn't make it.
Before we go on to Knuckles, have you seen the Knuckles TV show? Just before
I-
we dive into him?
I have not. I just watched a quick recap on it because I didn't hear very good things about it. My only gripe with what I heard about it, and I probably should watch it just to for my own opinion, but that Knuckles wasn't in it.
Yep.
So it's the opposite problem of it's the opposite of what this movie is, where it's all about the Sonic characters, which is what you go for, which is why you go to the movie for to see all the Sonic characters like. But for the Knuckles show, he's barely in it, so I'm like, I want to see Knuckles, so why would I watch this? And
I
then
think,
misreference to call it Knuckles Chaotix.
yeah, big time. Big time. I also didn't watch it. I think it's only on Paramount Plus, and I don't have that. And, I'm not a big fan of this streaming world. I'm a DVD guy, and
Oh,
I
that's
just-
another thing.
yeah, I just
that's right, I
can't
forgot.
get random streaming services all the time to check out shows, especially when, like I heard it was not good. Like, I'm not going to sign up for this thing or pay for this thing to watch a show that nobody's talking about, that if I do like, I don't think I could even buy it. I might be wrong on that, but if I liked Knuckles, could I even own it? I'm going to check right now, but if you want to go into your thoughts on Knuckles as a character in movie 3 and your thoughts on him in that.
Okay, so my thoughts on Knuckles in this movie is they're also really positive, but I like how they didn't make him like the modern game. So let me explain this. So Knuckles in Adventure 1 and Adventure 2, he's not dumb. So that's a thing that I feel modern Sonic introduced, where Knuckles is just a strong, hot-headed, dumb guy, but he's not that. Especially if you played Adventure, he's rational. Sure, he makes mistakes. Again, he fights Sonic, because he's tricked by Eggman, but he's not perfect. But that he's not like a dumb character. So one thing that I like that the Sonic 3 movie highlights is that Knuckles himself, he's pretty level-headed. Even though in the modern games they lead you to believe he's kind of stupid, he's really not, because in this movie he was one of the most rational characters. When they were talking about the plan to get into that gun base, I think he was just messing with Sonic, just friendly banter. He was just telling him, "Oh yeah, I'll break the glass," like so hard. And it was funny. And then then at the end when Sonic is like, "Just do it in emergencies," like, "Yeah, I'll do it in emergencies." Like I'm pretty sure it's just friendly banter in there. And then the second moment where I feel it highlights his personality more, and that he's not a dumb character like the modern games lead you to believe, is when Sonic is angry that Tom his thoughts at the moment were that he's dead or he might die because of the punch Shadow gave him. Is Sonic is asking for the emeralds to Knuckles, and Knuckles told him, "Hey, we made a vow, so I can't just give you the emeralds." And he's just telling him, if this is what you feel you should do, he stands down. So he's like really rational with his friend. So I feel that was like, yes, this is Knuckles. Like he was mad that Sonic broke his promise, but at the end he knew, hey, if this is what you feel you need to do. He saw the moment. He was like, there you go, Sonic.
I completely agree. In like Sonic Boom, Knuckles is kind of just like a meathead, like the big strong guy who's really dumb. But they really respected his character in this. That scene you're talking about, that is honestly one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. Just Sonic comes up to him, "I'm not asking you twice, Knuckles." It's so good. It's so well written. You feel so bad for Tails in the middle of it, and instead of just fighting Knuckles, he says to him, part of the oath was we were going to trust each other. And what a great line and some great characterization for him.
Yep. And even another thing that highlights that too is the trailer. So they did like a switcheroo for the trailers. Because in the trailers, when Shadow shows up, he's like, "Hey, we're not here to fight you." And he's like, "Oh, I want to fight him, Sonic." And he jumps immediately in the trailers. But in the actual movie, in context, he's like, "I want to fight him, Sonic." He doesn't do it immediately. He only does it when Shadow strikes.
Yep.
So that's another little thing.
Yep. I think right before we talk about Sonic, because he is, the main guy, we got to talk about 3 other characters really quick. Tom, Maddie, and Agent Stone. I think Tom and Maddie are essential to these movies. If we ever get rid of them, we need them to have a good, farewell. They need a good send-off. We can't just forget about them. That first movie made us care about Tom and Sonic's relationship, I would argue. And when Tom got hurt and Sonic was all, ticked off, and you see Maddie's all worried, I felt it. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's your dad. Go get Shadow. Go get him. So I don't know how you feel about the human characters. They're definitely more controversial, but are you okay with them still having some screen time, or do you wish we were done with them at this point?
I'm honestly okay with them having some screen time where it makes sense. I wouldn't see them if they ever made a movie where they go to Planet Mobius, which is Sonic's homeworld in the games. Maybe you wouldn't want to see them there because they're in another dimension, another space, and what would they be doing there? But when it comes to I guess street level threats, I feel like it's alright to have them there where it makes sense. Here, it made sense to not just push the plot forward, but just to show that Sonic and the gang, they're just a family now. And they weren't annoying. They had I feel like they just had the right amount of screen time. And think about it, without the human characters too, there wouldn't be any motivation, because Sonic in the games, he's just kind of a guy looking for adventure.
I think
which
Tom and Maddie show that Sonic 3 is not only a great movie, it's a great sequel, because it took everything that did and didn't work in Sonic 1 and 2, and it just made it better. Tom and Maddie, they have reduced screen time, but it's used greatly to affect the story and emotions. And Sonic 2's dance sequence was, just something I couldn't stand that. But Sonic 3's dance sequence is one of the best scenes. It's so much fun. And I guess the other human character we got to talk about is Agent Stone. I love this guy. I've listened to some interviews with the actor. I can't think of his name right now. I apologize. But he is honestly one of the best things to come from these movies. If you want to know, or if you want proof that these movies are doing something right, look at the fan response to Agent Stone. Everyone loves him. Everyone wants him in the games. And personally, I wouldn't be mad if he was the next villain. I think if we have to get rid of Eggman, if we have to get rid of Jim Carrey, Agent Stone should step up.
He takes up the mantle.
I think so. Maybe he makes a Metal Sonic, because he misses Eggman, and Sonic could be like, why'd you make a version of me? He's like, I can't remake perfection. I just made the most annoying thing I can think of. Or, just something like that. Like, he's not going to remake Eggman. He's too perfect. You could do something like that. But
yeah, I feel like Stone, honestly, yeah, he's a good new kicker, that's movie exclusive. But another thing that I want to say, if you don't want a human character in your Sonic, why do we like Shadow so much? He wants to avenge Maria because he thinks that's the right thing to do, and she's a human character.
Exactly.
So why would you want to take away things that motivate the main characters? I guess you can't blame people too much, because I hear a lot online that in Sonic X people don't like Chris a lot.
Yup.
So,
oh yeah.
So it might be that, but I would say, hey, this movie so far has shown you that they can do human characters, so I would say just let them cook.
Let them cook indeed. And going on to the Blue Blur himself, what do you think of the movie version of Sonic, specifically Sonic 3 Sonic?
So, let's see. It's hard to put him into words because I feel like he's a combination of all his incarnations of Sonic. I feel like he has a little bit of a Dreamcast Sonic in him. A lot of, I think he's like 70% modern Sonic. Well, actually, that's too high. So I would say maybe he's a 40% modern Sonic, 30% movie only, like his specific movie trait Sonics, and 10% maybe Genesis Sonic, and another 10% Dreamcast Sonic. He's laid back, which is a Dreamcast Sonic trait, and then the Genesis Sonic, he's confident like the Genesis Sonic, and modern Sonic, he has his quips every now and then. He's a funny guy, but there's also the percentage that is the movie Sonic, where he's like a family man. He just wants friends, and that's something you don't see in the games, because in the games he's like, oh yeah, I'm out of here. I don't need any friends. I'm an adventurer. Same in Sonic X. He just goes around, he just lays down and just looks at the sky. He's like, in movie Sonic, he's like, I'm all about the friends.
He's a lot nicer in the movies. He's definitely a lot more friendly and huggable. You want Sonic, not only would you want to hang out with Sonic, that Sonic would want to hang out with you. I think movie Sonic, I don't know if this will make any sense, but in the same way the classic Sonic kind of just, feels like the 90s, this Sonic feels kind of just feels like if Sonic never existed almost, and then just this is his first thing. Yeah, some of the pop culture references are kind of cheesy or whatnot, but it's that's what Sonic would say if this was like that. It feels in character, especially with what they've done with the movie version. He grew up on movies. He grew up on comic books. That's what he knows. He isn't from Sonic's world, like Mobius, like you said. He doesn't have all that stuff. So when he makes jokes, he's going to reference things on Earth that we know. Things that the audience for these movies would know. So I don't find that stuff to be a problem. And I think the way they've animated him, the way he moves, I think it is so well done. I had some problems with how he looked in Sonic 3. I kind of just found the animation and stuff better in the first movie, I wasn't a big fan of how he looked and moved in Sonic 2. I really liked Sonic 1, and Sonic 3, it looks like they brought the quality back, in my opinion. He looks great, his face is animated well, and the model looks fantastic. That's basically all of our thoughts on all the characters, unless you had anything to quick add before we move on.
Yeah, I feel like I'm honestly liking one thing I want to say so about his design. So I like how he's not uncanny looking because sometimes if you think about it too hard, in some games Sonic has like a single eyeball, but in this
Yeah.
one he actually has the white to show kind of like that the design. But it would look a little weird if it looked like he had like a single eyeball. So I like how they did the change. It grew on me, and at first I was like, it looks a little different. But after seeing it so well done in this movie, I'm like, okay, this is Sonic. Like he doesn't look in the Uncanny Valley territory.
If they did that, they'd have to acknowledge it. Like, there's no way Tom wouldn't have said something in that first movie, like Sonic, like, I got something in my eyes. He'd be like, eyes? Don't you mean eye? But yeah. Um, Moving on from that, let's get into the best part right here. Our favorite scenes. There are a lot of very hype moments in Sonic 3. There's a lot of fan service. There's a lot of great stuff. I'll go ahead and start by bringing up the Sonic X reference that I mentioned earlier. Sonic X. Now you might have to correct me here. As far as I know, Gotta Go Fast is not from any of the games. That's just from the English opening of Sonic X. And that's movie Sonic's catchphrase, I guess. When him and Shadow go supersonic on the moon and Live and Learn by Crush 40 start playing, he says it, gotta go fast. And for me, someone who loved Sonic X growing up, loved listening to the Adventure 2 soundtrack when I was younger. I had it on my little MP3 player. Like, that moment was just... It's not just Adventure 2. It's not just Sonic X. It's not just the games. It's like, this is the whole franchise. Why it's so hyped. The music, the visuals, the references, the lines, the characters. I just thought, like, not even them fighting in their super forms, just them powering up on the moon and taking off. I thought that was just so well done, especially after the great conversation that Shadow and Sonic had beforehand.
Yeah, so the Sonic X stuff is like the reference, the catchphrase. I mean, I feel like it fits too. Like I feel like that's what most people would just auto think even without seeing Sonic X. Oh yeah, he's like a fast guy. He's gonna say gotta go fast at some point.
Yep.
Um,
What would you say is your all number one or, couple of your favorite scenes from this movie? I know the Live and Learn Supersonic is probably up there for you too.
oh yeah, no, definitely. If we exclude that, honestly, the opening scene where he like drops from the plane and he says the line from Sonic Adventure 2. He's like cheap
No,
flights at
no,
cheap music
yeah,
plane.
what is it? What is it? It's like,
I
talk
like how
about cheap flights, no food or movies, we're
oh
out
yeah,
of here.
we're out of here. And then he does the thing, and then they almost had the shot where he drops from the plane with the piece of the helicopter and the board where it just highlights his face. Like they almost had that, but I feel
Yup,
like okay,
yup.
we gotta chill out with the reference. They gotta dial it back. Like if they ever have a deleted scenes, I'm curious to know if they'll just show that. But it was line for line. And what's crazy too is that the day of the movie, like before I saw the movie, I played a City Escape with my friend. We did a run as one player, and then we did a multiplayer run. And then the funny thing is too, my friend, he's not a Sonic person. He hasn't played any of the old games. I think he only knows Sonic from the modern stuff. But I was just teaching him, hey, this is how you play Sonic Adventure, and it's just, I guess, interesting to see his perspective on like the movie and like the game specifically. But yeah, he said he even liked the movie, so that's a testament of how good this movie is. And in the games, he was a little rocky. You gotta get Sonic. He's not as like easy to control as Mario. He's not as straightforward. There's definitely a learning curve from what I saw him play. And I tried to be nice with him, guys. Though don't worry if I played the Adventure 2 battle. But I had to teach him, hey, this is how you play the game. This is what you can do. So I
Of
bullied
course.
him a little bit in the game, but I let him play as Shadow. So if he wanted to, he could have chaos controlled me and stopped me. I did teach him how to do that.
Um, Another highlight of the movie is definitely Sonic versus Shadow and Super Sonic versus Super Shadow.
Oh, that was
My
amazing.
the friend I saw it with had never, I don't think he'd ever played a Sonic game, and he's never really watched like anime, because that fight definitely had some Dragon Ball vibes to me. But you know, he said coming out of the movie that was one of the greatest action sequences he'd ever seen. And honestly, in today's age with modern CGI and stuff, it does surprise me. I'm like, why is Sonic 3 the movie doing something that's like kind of blowing my mind? Like when Shadow threw Sonic against the mountain, he's bouncing all over, and Sonic jumps back and the whole mountain moved and lava poured out of the earth. It was like, oh my gosh, like wow, like I never thought I'd see that just in a Sonic movie, or any movie really. Just the fight, you can feel how powerful they were, and for fans it had to feel great just seeing Super Shadow and Super Sonic just really, how do I like, justified, kinda, and respected. It wasn't just a joke or a little reference. They were fully there, and it was great.
Yeah, it wasn't as funny as like the game fights where you just kind of spam A and homing attack the other character. Definitely much better than that. And then another thing I want to say about that, it was very DBZ-esque. There's some moves that I saw that Goku would pull out, like the part where Sonic lunges at him with a punch, and then Shadow just blocks it with like that one side arm attack or block that Goku does. I was like, oh man, they probably were watching Dragon Ball 2 right before this scene, or whoever was making these scenes, they were like, okay, let's combine what we know, and then let's combine the awesomeness of Dragon Ball and just put it into this one scene.
I do want to say, just talking about all the super stuff, I've seen some complaints online from Sonic fans saying Live and Learn isn't in the movie a lot, or Live and Learn isn't in the movie enough. They don't really use the song enough. They don't let it play. And my response to that is, do you guys remember Sonic Movie 1 and Sonic Movie 2? These are big Hollywood movies, like you said earlier, that have like a lot of executives and people that mandate like what happens, how it happens. There's a lot of copyright and stuff. And at the end of the day, I heard Live and Learn in the theater while watching Super Sonic and Super Shadow. I'm not mad. I'm more than happy and more than satisfied with how much game references and music there were. I don't know if you have any different thoughts about that, if you think they should have let it play longer, or if you're in the same boat as me and you're more than satisfied with what they did.
Oh no, I'm satisfied. And remember, everybody thought it wasn't gonna be there at all because of licensing, all that stuff. And for it to be there in the first place, even at all, is amazing. So I would complain more that that they just referenced it and didn't put it in there. Like, you could reference it but not put it in there. So you better be glad that it's there at all. And honestly, I don't know what people are talking about. Like, did we watch the same movie? Because they play it for a while from the one scene that it matters. Yep. Like, even in the games, you only hear at the beginning and at the end. And do you really count the intro? It's supposed to play in the intro, like when you start up the game. But at the end, that's amazing. When it kicks in, you know it's about to go real. Like, if they overused it or let it play longer, it would lose its impact too. So think about that.
And to people, see, this is something else. There's a track in the soundtrack called Gun Control. It's City Escape. It's hard to tell that it's City Escape because it's like so remixed, but it is. It really is. And if you sit down and listen to the entire soundtrack, I did this about a week ago. Live and Learn is used throughout the whole thing. It's when Shadow is, fighting, you hear a little Live and Learn. When he's with Maria, she's playing Live and Learn on the guitar. It is literally used subtly throughout the whole movie. And then, like you said, it's so effective when they finally bring it out full force, just when it's, like, those moments. So, I think that's, like, for a movie, what else could I ask? They have Live and Learn as a motif for Shadow the Hedgehog, and then when he has literally lived and learned, it plays full blast. I think they did a perfect job with it.
Yep. I agree with that, and you don't want it to lose its impact. Like, really think about it. Like, you don't want to overuse something. and leave something for the AMV creators, okay?
Yeah.
Think about those guys.
Dude, those guys have to be so happy with all this stuff, all the good CG Sonic scenes. They got to be eating that up. Yep. I saw someone make the Sonic X opening with like the movie footage. That was cool, but.
Yeah, the one guy who's gonna use the Japanese version where they're speaking in Japanese, like, it's gonna be amazing. Think about it, guys. You gotta leave those guys.
I guess we're on to our closing thoughts here. We're at almost an hour of recording time. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up about Sonic 3 you wanted to discuss or just get out into the world before we end this episode?
Yeah, so if you still haven't seen it, or you want to rent it to watch with your kids at home or something, what I would recommend, play at least the first level or watch a playthrough on YouTube of the first level of City Escape with the cutscene at the beginning, and then maybe see the first level of Shadow the Hedgehog, and then just watch the final boss of Sonic Adventure 2 like a playthrough, or play it yourself. Play them before the movie, and trust me, it'll be much better.
You can grab them on Steam, or the PlayStation 3 I saw has Adventure 2 without the Battle DLC. You can get just like the stock Adventure 2 on the PS3 if you want to do that.
That's right. I did forget about the Steam versions as well.
Yeah, and the Steam versions definitely have their share of issues, but you can always check out mods. I mean, the Sonic community is so good when it comes to all that stuff.
Oh yeah, they're a dedicated bunch, and what's good about the adventure games too is that you don't need a beefy PC, so you can probably run it on a relatively old laptop and still have a good time with them.
I did just want to say before we do close, Knuckles, the TV show, does have a DVD, Blu-ray, and etc. release, so maybe I'll pick that up sometime if I see it for cheap. Give that a full review, but I think we will end today's episode, whatever it is, with my criticless review of Sonic 3. I gave this a 100%, which lands it in the most excellent category. Here's what I wrote. Is this movie as good as the other movies I've given 100%? Well, that's up to you. But personally, I thought this movie, for what it was and what it was trying to be, was perfect. Like Sonic 1 and 2, Sonic 3 doesn't follow the game's story perfectly. This is an adaptation, and a darn good one at that. Shadow's story was done so well. Again, it was different from the video games, but the core was left intact. Nothing important was left out. The visual effects, action, OST, and licensed songs were all much, much better than the previous films. The writing was also really, really good in this one, and there wasn't any cringy jokes that took me out of the movie. It was nice to see Team Sonic on the big screen, and Shadow's big screen debut was done with such care. Dr. Eggman was fantastic, and as my girlfriend would put it, he descended into greatness. I could go on and on about how amazing this was in theaters or how awesome the game references were, but I think I'll end this review with pointing out that Sonic 3 is a really solid movie, even without any knowledge of the games. While you do have to see the whole trilogy for Sonic 3 to be fully effective, it's more than worth it. It's got a lot of emotion and a good message that should be enjoyable to those of all ages. The after credit scene was a wonderful bonus. It's an actual scene, not just a short tease, and it's great. And I just realized we didn't talk about the after credit scene, so let's make that the last thing we talk about. Our little after credit podcast thing, I guess.
Oh yeah.
What did you think about Amy and Metal Sonic showing up to give us a wow, and Shadow still being alive at the end?
So the Shadow still being alive is hype because in the games he does survive. That's why you keep seeing him in the game. So I guess spoiler, but not really because you still see him around. And the curveball is that there's a ton of Metal Sonics. As you know, a lot of people would think, why is there so many of them? I want to know that too. Like, I know there has been instances where there's like several Metal Sonics, because he's a robot. Remember that too. He's not a character, but I think they're setting up for something much bigger. So you might hear it here first, but they might have in Sonic 4 Neo Metal Sonic. in there where he has maybe an army of Metal Sonics. That's what I'm thinking here. But it's cool that they pair Metal Sonic and Amy too as a reference to Sonic CD. So that's incredible. But the curveball is that why is there so many Metal Sonics? So I want to know that, and it makes me intrigued to see what Sonic 4 has in store for us in like 2027.
You just got my brain spinning now, because like the one thing I want with Metal Sonic is I don't mind if he has like clones or copies, but I need a main one, and I need that main one to believe that he is Sonic. Maybe Stone is trying to become Eggman, so he makes his own Sonic to battle, and then Metal Sonic, going off rogue, is like, if he's gonna battle Sonic, there can only be one, and it has to be the real one, and that's me. They could do some really cool stuff with that. You could play with Sonic being so much about his friends, you could really play into Metal thinking he is the real Sonic, and like, why don't Tails and Knuckles why don't they believe me? Why don't they follow me? Why are they following this faker? And then maybe Shadow could be the one to talk to Metal. We'll see if Metal is going to be a redeemable villain. It's been interesting how they've been doing the villains in these movies, because they've all, except Gerald, kind of ended up being good guys in the end.
Yeah, that's true. I feel with Metal Sonic, though, it's a bit trickier because in the games he's designed to be, I guess, Sonic's equal. And he's created by Eggman, so of course, to destroy Sonic himself. So I'm interested just to see the origins of, Dr. Eggman in the movie timeline. He's dead. So who made him? Or did they make him beforehand? Like, and he just got activated now? Or did Stone, after Eggman's death, just went to his lab and just, hey, break glass in case of emergency? He didn't know what
exactly.
it
was. Yep. It could be like a fail-safe if he died or something.
Yep. And yeah, it reminds me too of like the leak that's going on around where Sonic Heroes is going to get remade, and at the end of that game, the main villain is Metal Sonic, or Neo Metal Sonic to be specific. So
the one thing I haven't seen a lot of fans point out, and maybe it's because Sonic fans are, more game fans, when Metal Sonic shows up, it is almost exactly the same as the Terminator when he shows up after time traveling. He's got the little electric, he's like kneeled over, and then he stands up. To me, that was like the makers of this movie saying he just time traveled. Like, get that in your head.
Yeah, it could be also a reference to Sonic CD too, where time traveling is a thing.
I think that might be the route we're going, and I mean, there's that concept art of Bad Future Eggman, Jim Carrey with Metal Sonic, so it's definitely going to be interesting, and stay tuned, because in 2027 we have Godzilla x Kong versus Sonic 4 at the box office, so we will definitely be reviewing both of those in a few years whenever those come out. So
I just watched both. They're spoiling us in 2027.
I know. I honestly don't know who I want to win at the box office, because like, Godzilla's my guy. I love the Zilla, but man, like, I'm rooting for Sonic so far. Like, not against Godzilla, but like, I've been rooting for these movies, so I think that'll definitely be a really, really good month at the theater. But so obviously, if you want to follow whatever me, I am Tzilla on Twitter and YouTube. But Metal, if people are interested in following you and seeing what you make online, where can they find you?
So I recently made Night Twitter, but you can find me under Metal_Yoshi on there, and I post art every now and then and gaming related stuff. It's fairly new, so don't expect like a lot, but I did make a drawing for Shadow there. It says Team Dark, and I made some stickers. I might repost to put the stickers. And if you guys want to check it out, I'll just send a link to Tzilla here, and I'll just leave it in the video description.
Yep, it'll be in the description of this podcast, so if you're on YouTube, Spotify, whatever, just, go down the description. We'll have it right there by the email.
Yep. And it's not really a product, so it's just if you guys want to see it or not. But I liked it a lot. I want to see the references here, but I'll let you guys figure it out.
You guys should go flood him with likes and comments, so he has to make products so we can buy them. thank you so much for listening to this one. If you have any thoughts, comments, questions, or want us to talk about a movie or anime, go ahead and email us at dynamapodcast@gmail.com, and we will get an episode out for you. So, other than that, goodbye, everybody.
See ya.